It would help if I got my microphone in front of my face. That would be helpful too. Let's see here. I'm going to pop out the chat so I can read it. Going to change it to live chat instead of top chat so I can see all the things. I think we got that. Oh, geez, my closed captioning is on for some reason. That's annoying. No, I lost the other window. There it is. Okay. We're all set. Mostly. There we go. Cool. It's been a bit, hasn't it? Absolutely. I hope you folks are doing well. I like to paint minis. Almost time. It is now time, as it turns out. VJ Morph, how you doing? Evening/morning. Fungazi, just saw you a couple of weeks ago at DC, at the Nova Open. We got to chat a couple of times. It was nice. Good morning from Drizzly, Washington. The weather in Washington, D.C., while we were there for Nova, was the best weather there's ever been for Nova, hands down, until Sunday. Sunday started to get real hot, but otherwise, like, no humidity, 70s, low 80s. It was spectacular. Todd Mitchell, how you doing? Mackinac, Illinois. Good morning from sunny and hot Berlin, Germany. How you doing? Cleveland, way unseasonably hot here in Sydney at the moment. Well, because yeah, it's spring over there, isn't it? Good morning from soon-to-be drizzly Maryland. It's nice and sunny today, but it's not supposed to get over 70, so bodes rather badly for summer. Going to be a scorcher, I fear. Well, I think we're going to have a lot of that for a while. Kent, England, how you doing? Clearwater, Florida, howdy. Good morning from the Mitten, Germany. St. Jerome, like button hit, Pachow, thank you, I appreciate that. It always helps the channel and the videos and such. Hello from Indiana. I was just in Indiana last weekend. Quebec, Peterborough, Canada, Edinburgh, Scotland, where autumn has started. It's started here too. I saw definitely some trees that were changing color yesterday. Malaysia, had a nap, having tea. Uncle Adam is back. Good day, indeed. I mean, those things sound good. I mean, the last thing's good too, with me being back or whatever, but yeah. Welcome back from West Bend. How you doing? Checking in from the deep south of Ontario. How you doing, John? Sunny southeast Massachusetts. I have to sneeze now. Excuse me. That came out of nowhere. I am noticing allergies a bit more because of the fall. That happens usually. Gilbert, Arizona. Yesterday was building and priming. Nice. Today, painting. Good morning from somewhat warm Saskatchewan. How you doing? Finally making headway on assessments. Now they're way overdue. Giving up a passing this year, I'm sure. Good morning from Portland, Maine. Working on my Mordheim warband. Speaking of, you should go to Under the Dice Fest in January. I haven't listened to the newest episode, but I've been hearing them talk about it, and it's interesting. Unfortunately, I think I'm going to be going to, is it the end of January? Because I think I'm going to end up going to LVO. So, good morning from Portland, Oregon. Different Portland. My friend and I are running through Space Station Zero, just starting Mission 4. Nice. Slev, how you doing? Pleasant priming weather in Tennessee. Yeah, today would be good priming weather as well. I've got some 3D printed terrain that I ordered at Nova that showed up, and I should probably think about trying to prime it. Straighten up the house, getting prepared for a new tiny human. All minis going on high shelves. Probably not a bad idea, yeah. The spoken word poetry that is the beginning of every live stream has begun, indeed. Coolish in Indianapolis. I was in Fort Wayne, and it was also, the weather was real nice. It was good. Good time of day from seasonable and sunny upstate New York. How you doing, Cowgirl Steve? Greetings from Madison. Ever come down to Noble Night Games for classes or games? Since they've moved to Madison, I don't think I've been there, now that I come to think of it. I mean, well, I don't know if I've been to Madison since they moved there, to be perfectly honest with you. No, maybe I was there for something, but not at Noble Night. I haven't been to the new Noble Night location. It's hard to say. Hello from St. Paul. Terrain tiles crafting today, thanks to the show. Absolutely. Slightly hungover in Tennessee. Planning on printing some weird Bestarium angels. Bestarium stuff definitely can be put in as weird. It's awesome looking stuff, but it's definitely it is really cool stuff, but it is definitely not normal, let's say. I don't know. That's maybe the wrong word. But there's nothing else out there like it, in my opinion. Morning from Omaha. It's priming day. All the Griblies from Leviathan are getting sprayed today. So yeah, that's the thing. It's always fall that like you start to see a lot of priming happening because you got winter's coming. West Virginia, how you doing? Greetings from slightly less hot than normal Alabama. Awesome to see you at Nova. My girlfriend was like, "Do you know that guy?" After we talked, I answered yes from the internet. See, there you go. Yeah, absolutely. It's always cool to meet people. So for sure. Hamilton, Ohio. Autumn officially begins next Saturday. No need to rush it. No, I know what you mean. Soggy, Glasgow. Good morning from Jacksonville, Florida. I'm prepping for a big game in my local Blood Bowl league in about 2 hours. Nice. Afternoon all, painting up my Cities of Sigmar box on a lovely rainy Saturday with a big mug of tea. That sounds like a pretty good time, I'm telling you. Hope my hay fever doesn't hit it too hard this season. Yeah, when I was going to... last weekend when I was last Thursday, not this past Thursday, but Thursday before, I was going to this trade show in Fort Wayne, and this eye, like I woke up that morning and it was like crusted shut, and then all day it was just running and gross and ugh, it sucked, and it was from allergies. This happens to me generally once a year about. Good afternoon from the French Alps. Kit bashing some Chaos Terminators. Nice. Good morning from great metropolis of Ottawa, Ontario. Working on some square-based shenanigans, i.e. Warhammer Fantasy. Nice. West Midlands, painting up some dystopian wars. Nice. Jonesboro, Illinois. My body is rebelling against my plans for DIY and minis painting, so I'm going to go through my army project notes in one coherent document. That's not a bad idea. Noble Knight is impressive. Gigantic hobby shop. Yeah, like I said, I kind of want to check it out. Good morning from Albuquerque, working on my first ever diorama for a local Halloween painting competition. Nice. Comfortable today in Cincinnati. Hope your day is going well. Glad I could make the stream today. We're glad to have you, John. Good morning from Bremerton, Washington. Good day to prime. Great day to prime. Absolutely. Gray and gloomy Southern California. Let's see here. Been priming a lot lately. Have some... more due soon. Winter is coming indeed. Yep. My priming was airbrush. Nice. Zenithal primes some Middle Earth Mirkwood Rangers. It's hard trying to figure out the different browns and greens I'll need in speed paints and contrast paints. GW even suggested blue-black for the trousers. Hard. Interesting. Greetings from Toronto, the center of the universe. I'm cutting new character cards for Marvel Crisis Protocol while we chat. Nice. Pennsylvania. Port Neches, Texas. I'm not pronouncing that properly. It's finally not in the hundreds. Love the videos. Well, thank you very much, and I'm glad to hear it's not in the hundreds. That's good. Meeting cool people from the internet is one of the best parts of the internet. Yeah, for sure. That and tutorials, I think. And pictures of cats. I guess those are the three things. We turned off the AC and opened the windows the other day. It's nice, but yeah, pollen stuff sucks. Yeah, that's the thing too. We've got the windows open because, the cats, they like the windows open, and I like the windows open as well. And it's, and it's been cooler and stuff like that, but it does give me the stuff. My wife is a pharmacy manager. She gets me all the good stuff, but I got a full face respirator to use at work this year. Goggles the whole lot. Might be overkill, but I don't care. I mean, if it makes it so you don't have issues, then, that works. Good morning from Nina. How you doing, Scott? Going to be editing pictures I took yesterday at a show, then working on making patterns for a scratch build project I'm working on. Nice. Good morning from Rhode Island. Finishing up some marine vehicles before the Codex release. Yeah, that's got to be coming up real soon, isn't it? Hello from the middle of the mitten. How you doing? Hudson, Illinois. Jay, how you doing? Didn't even pronounce Tejas properly. Yeah, that'll happen. Feisty Crab Man, how you doing? Getting another workbench to use in here so I can leave projects on the table when I get distracted by a shiny and new. Yeah, that, you can always take up more space for sure. Good morning from Lexington, Kentucky. Can't stick around. I get to help set up a 13-year-old birthday party. Wow, nice. Excited to be hitting the U.S. again, even if it's only L.A. and San Francisco for the weekend in a couple of weeks. Nice. Nice. Yeah, I'm glad I'm not really going anywhere. I mean, I'm going to Dragonfall at the end of this month. Or, no, I take that back. The beginning of October, actually, is when it is. But that's like a 2-hour drive. And I'm not going to miss anything. Like, I will stream on Friday morning on Twitch, as I normally do. And then I will get done at 1 o'clock or whatever. And I will probably have the car already packed or pretty close to it. And then I will go, So, yeah, that should be okay. But I'm looking forward to that. Otherwise, my next actual like travel kind of go someplace, like get on a plane and all that jazz. It's going to be VinciCon. Second weekend of December, I believe, is when we're doing that. That's so I'll be going to Ohio for that, and at the very least right now I know for sure it'll be me and Vince, but probably also Sam and John and Ninjan and potentially Scott, the miniature maniac, whatever. I don't know if there's a specific longer version of that. I mean, Miniac is one thing. I just didn't know if there's like, I think I've heard him called Scott the Miniature Maniac, but then that doesn't necessarily have Miniac in it. So if you don't know that, you might think that's a different person. Anyway, my point is that that's the next time that I have to go someplace, specifically on a plane, which is always kind of, I don't know. Honestly, I didn't have any late flights. I didn't have any delayed flights. I didn't have any, I did have to kind of book it in Atlanta on the way back. There was a very short, you look at it and they're like, oh, it's an hour, overlay or layover. That's fine. Well, yeah, except that the plane starts to load a half hour before. So now you got 30 minutes and you're in one terminal at ATL and you're of course never flying out of the same terminal. God forbid. I don't know why they always make you run across the airport, but they do. I think it makes them laugh. Anyway, so there's, but in general, otherwise, people have had worse. Like Sam, on his way to Nova, he was going to get there right around lunchtime, like was the original plan. He was going to leave, here and fly there, and it was fine. But his flight was canceled, and so he didn't get there till like, I don't know, 7 or 8 o'clock at night. So yeah, that was a bummer. It's rainy in Chicagoland, so the water's entering the basement today. Game has begun. There is a little water off a plumbing pipe. Condensation? I don't know. It's a good question. Ours just sort of seeps out of the cinder block and then runs across the basement and goes down a drain, which is not helpful, but pictures of cats are pretty awesome. It's true. I know you don't play Blood Bowl, but did you see the new Vampire Team announcement? Loving the Halloween vibes, classic over-the-top red capes and tall hair. I think I did. Yeah, I think I did. Well, actually, hang on. Poke. And then we'll go here. Oh, by the way, so yeah, Iron Jaws, that's pretty cool. I got new ones of those. This one here, though, if you saw this article on the Warhammer community website, right here, this big pig, that is Vince's, so that's pretty cool. He got kind of top billing, with his picture of his giant honking pig there, and then there's some other folks down here as well who got their stuff in there, but yeah, Vince got the big top spot, so that's pretty exciting. Where is the... I mean, I guess I could organize, but this website is such a weird thing sometimes. No. Well, they must have announced them a real... Oh, here we go. Vampires. There we go. That's... Yeah. Stripy pants. That's hard. Like, that seems like a pretty good vampire. I could definitely... That's pretty decent. But yeah. But this one here, that's... I mean, it's a hard shot to probably take. You know what I mean? Like... I would have probably turned the model a little bit more just to, well, not that way, but the other way. Anyway, I would have turned it a little bit more so that it was looking more towards the camera, not looking off the camera. And I think you would have seen a little bit more, but that's, yeah, that's, I don't know. I just get tired of models where they're standing on one foot. You know, like it makes sense with the Night Haunts. It makes sense that they would be all floaty and stuff because they are actual literal ghosts, but I don't know. Sometimes it's a thing. All right, so now I have to reconfigure my windows and such. There we go. Hoping to get some Tyranid painted today, although the weather is perfect for some more priming. I mean, priming's always a good idea if you're using the rattle can. Good afternoon from Croatia. Bet you weren't expecting that. I wasn't, no. But how you doing? Good morning from Richmond, Virginia. Painting some Orc Boys today. Nice. Found out that Rhode Island isn't an island. That is weird, isn't it? That is, yeah. That's. I guess I haven't thought about that, but it is odd, isn't it? Let's see here. I'm going to Dragonfall with Jamie Daggers, taking painting classes with Zambies and Sam. Hopefully I'll get a chance to meet you. Well, it's not a particularly big convention. It's last year it was maybe 300 people, so yeah, I probably will, for sure. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's a cool show. It's like I said, it's pretty small. Not as small as TMX, but still pretty small. It's all for charity, and it is aimed predominantly all just at miniature painting. I think they might do a little bit of, I don't know if there's maybe just a touch of board gaming or a touch of RPG there, but for the most part, it's all tabletop wargaming stuff, tournaments and things like that. I'm planning on bringing probably some, I don't know what I'm going to bring. Definitely some Combat Patrol, but I don't know. I might bring some Warcry stuff. I might bring a little bit of... could even technically bring a little bit of one-page rules. That's possible. Let's see here. I never learn about shows and conventions until afterwards. It's a skill. Yeah, I wish that there was a really good like place to find all that stuff. We tried doing it with Game 4, but you know, it worked pretty well in the app, but the the pandemic sort of screwed us at just the wrong time, so that was a bummer. But hopefully somebody will come up with something like that. Morning from Virginia. So you guys hanging out at Nova, but you looked deep in discussion, so I didn't want to bother you and say hey. I guess it depends on what's going on. You know, generally, like if you're just like, hey, like the videos or whatever, that's not. If you were like wanted to come over and have a conversation, but you're somebody, I'm already having a conversation, or somebody's already, then yeah, I understand that, you know, and I appreciate that. But I hope you had a good time at Nova. I did. Nova was great. When I first got there, I was like, I don't like this new place, but I don't like change, so that's normal. By the end of the show, I enjoyed the new place a good deal. I think the vendor hall is still a little bit, well, it's not a hall. Well, it is a hall. It's literally like a hallway. Also, the one whole wall of the vendor hall was mirrors, so I kept looking over there going, oh, there's stuff. Oh, no, wait, that's just me. That guy looks like but it looks twice as big because there's a mirror on one side. And so you look over there and be like, oh, there's another booth over there that's got the same stuff. Oh, no, that's this booth right here. That happened, I don't know how many times, and I couldn't trick my brain into stop doing that. But that's what mirrors are for. Mirrors are trickery. But yeah, it's not bad. It's better than the old kind of area. Slightly more brightly lit, which is also nice too, which is cool. But there was good stuff in there. You know, there was, I mean, the Bits guy obviously was there, like he is, and several different store retailers and stuff like that. I bought a bunch of Cromlech stuff. Not a bunch, but some. This is generally the show where I buy Cromlech stuff, because otherwise I don't have any stores anywhere near me that ever carry it. But there's at least 2 stores usually there that both carry a bunch of that stuff. So I got some more of those cool bat wings and some cool shoulder pads and other stuff like that for just kind of kit bashing stuff. Cromlech is a company from Poland, and they make a lot of resin, you know, bits and things like that for kit bashing. I couldn't buy much stuff because my luggage was already pretty packed. So I couldn't be like, oh, this is really cool, because how am I going to get it home? That said, There was downstairs in the giant honkin' where they were doing 40K down here, there was a booth that was selling 3D printed terrain. And I found some like 6mm style buildings that you could use for Battletech, but you could also use them for Steel Rift, which is what I'm going to be using them for. And then and they're like cool sci-fi, like skyscrapery kind of things almost. And then there was also a cool like gas station, which was scaled to like 32-ish or so. It was like a little big. And so I was like, basically I was like, do you guys ship? Because I can't fit this stuff in my luggage. He's like, yeah, we can ship it to you. I'm like, cool. So I ordered those buildings and I ordered the gas station. And I was looking at the gas station. I'm like, gosh, I wish this was just a little bit smaller. The scale is a little big for what I'm doing. And he's like, well, we can just print you a new one at 28mm scale. I'm like, oh yeah, you could, I suppose. Yeah. So that stuff showed up and that's pretty cool. This room that I took this picture in, this is during setup. So that's why there weren't really too many people in there. But the hotel that this is happening at, the hotel that the whole convention is taking place at, is the Washington, D.C. Hilton, which if you're old like me, that is where John Hinckley Jr. shot President Ronald Reagan in late May of 1981. There's a plaque in the whole thing. Also, that big honkin' room that's in the thumbnail there, if you've ever heard of the Correspondence Dinner, it's where all the Congress people and politicians and this and that and presidents and all kinds of stuff, and they all dress up in tuxedos and whatever. They come to this dinner, and then like a comedian like Stephen Colbert or somebody is like the MC and kind of makes fun of them, and it's a whole thing. It's been going on for years. It takes place in that room where basically a bunch of sweaty nerds were playing 40K and stuff like that. So that was just the 40K room. Every other ballroom and place, it's a big place. It was all pretty much taken up. I think, well, I don't have all of everything. Maybe there was a couple of rooms that didn't, but a lot of stuff was taken up by this convention. So that was cool. Luckily, I didn't stay in the hotel. I stayed across the street because the hotel did have a problem on the first couple of days where nobody's key cards would work. So if you wanted to go to your room, somebody from the front desk, they had a herd of people who worked there who probably got called in, would basically just walk you up to your room and then unlock the door for you so you could get in. Wasn't ideal, but I just was across the street and it worked out great. Let's see here. Oops, everything's moved. Let's see here. Going to Dragonfall. Morning from VA. So you got, yep, we did that one. Good morning from Blackpool, England. Scraping off mold lines off of Tyranid knees. Tyranids, their knees definitely have some mold lines. I got the starter set, Librarian and Barbgaunt off eBay. 2 combat patrols in one go for 10th to play with a friend. Nice. That's a good plan. It's a good plan. Wisconsin to Georgia to Ohio. Hubs. Yeah, so that was the thing. So I flew out of Green Bay, Wisconsin to Atlanta and then turned around and went back to Fort Wayne, Indiana. And on the way home, it was the exact same thing. Now, when I went to DC, it was Appleton Airport to Detroit to DC, which makes total sense. It's on the way and it's perfect. But why you can't go Green Bay to Detroit to Fort Wayne, I don't know, but you have to go all the way down to Atlanta and then turn around and come all the way back just to get there. But yeah. FincyCon, the con that we all get to go to vicariously through videos on multiple channels. To some degree, sure. Friend gave me a box of Intercessors. I've been painting each of the Marines in different colors, hoping to finish the last one this morning. Nice. 725, how you doing? Trimming the flash off some resin custodes to start the morning. Cool. I like older ones, like Forge World custodes. Hello from Germany. Just finished a fun 2,000 point game in 10th. Really loving the new rules set. Glad you're back. Well, I'm glad to be back as well, and I'm glad that you enjoyed your game. That's always the best. I'll start to paint the Tomb Kings Battalion box from back in the day. Oh, yeah. No, my local shop, this was years back, like before the pandemic, 2018 or so. I was like looking at something in his store, and there was this box for the Tomb King's battalion, and I think it was still in the shrink, and I just assumed he was just using the box to store their stuff. But when I realized it was still in the shrink, I'm like, has this never been opened? He's like, yeah, no. I'm like, this is going for decent money on eBay. You should think about flipping this on eBay. And he's like, well, why? I'm like, because you can't get it anymore. And he's like, oh yeah, that's right. And then, so yeah, I think he did flip it on eBay. But it wasn't going anywhere at the store. You know, people weren't buying it there. So, in my opinion, Vince is really starting to improve as a painter. Keep trying, Vince. Well, one of these days he'll get there. I think he's doing great, obviously. Spent up comparatively big at the My Mini Factory summer sale. I forgot about that. I like trolls, but I do not like the new big GW troll. Well, I mean, I'm trying to think what the big GW troll looks like these days. I can't remember. Seeing the Blood Bowl teams filled with vampires, werewolves, wood, and high elves makes me want Warhammer Old World. Nostalgia is a heck of a drug, y'all. I mean, it's coming, from what I understand. On my last Europe trip, I transited through Amsterdam multiple times. Only once did I have to really hustle to make my connection, but it was close. Yeah, that's the thing that always annoys me. The old Captain Morgan pose as well as tiresome. Yeah, I know what you mean. Oh, those are the star players. The team was a couple weeks back. Yeah, that makes sense. Watching the Golden Demon YouTube channel makes me want to return to second edition 40K, even with all the rules issues I remember only too well. It was fun regardless. I mean, there is a bit of, what do you call it? Like, sometimes nostalgia that is, you know, rose-colored glasses kind of situation. That sometimes happens for sure. There's a chipmunk that is systematically cleaning out our bird feeder right outside the window. He just makes I keep hearing him over there. Speaking of vampires, did you just happen to see The Last Voyage of the Demeter? No, I'm aware of it. I saw a trailer for it, but I have not seen it. Hey, I haven't been to the theater in a long time. I'm just not particularly interested in going to the theater anymore. My plan was I was going to go this winter to my first movie of the year, which would be Dune Part 2. But now they've moved it to 2024, so it looks as if there's a good probability I'm not going to the theater at all this year. At least I don't think so. Did we? I can't remember if we went to the theater at all this year. I don't think so. I like the big troll with the orc riding on his head. Nice. Golden angle. Not always as golden as they seem. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Well worth a visit if you're ever in the Riviera. Fantastic indigenous wines. Oh, that's nice. Not a fan of the 1-foot poses, especially on flying Space Marines with jump packs. Most of them look like kids on a playground jumping off things pretending to fly. Yeah. Like, I like the look of the new jump pack Primaris that they showed off at Nova. Like, they had the big event or whatever. And that was honestly, pretty much everything they showed off, I was like, huh. But those guys, I'm like, well, I'm glad that there are finally jump assault Primaris, because that has been a thing that's been missing, especially if you're like trying to build an army and you're like, I want to do Blood Angels or something like that. Like, jump pack dudes are kind of their bread and butter to some degree, and they've just not had, like, they've had assault Primaris, but they don't have jump packs. Well, now they do. So, well, they don't yet. They will soon. And the jump packs, I like the design of the jump packs. They look real good. The poses, yes, they're okay, but there's a little bit of jumping off rocks kind of thing that I kind of could get. We could skip that. Like, I don't particularly mind flight stands. Honestly, neither of them is, like, I don't know. How about just guys running on the ground with a jump pack? Like, they're about to jump. You don't have to see it. They're not having to jump off a rock to do it. They have a jump pack on. You don't need to be like, well, if I don't jump off this rock, I won't be able to get off the ground. You have giant rockets stuck to your, butt. It should be fine. Zambies and Sambies. There you go. Have you tried Grimdark Future, not Firefight? Nope. I've just only ever played Firefight. Mainly because I'm generally a skirmish guy. That's generally my kind of thing. Which reminds me, I need to download the new version, because there's been a 2.0 or a 3.0, I think. Yeah, I think they've got a 3.0 version, so I need to download that. Morning from cloudy Cambridge. Airbrushing 1K, 1,000 suns. I'm assuming. Oh no, I'm sorry. I was like, I thought it was 1,000 suns, and you just put it in 1K suns, but actually you were talking about 1,000 points of blood angels. So there you go. So much red, yeah, for sure. What I did with mine, specifically the one, well, so I painted the combat patrol for the Space Marines from Leviathan, but they're eventually going to get folded, in theory, into a 1,000-point Blood Angels army. So I just decided to paint them as Blood Angels, even though, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Anyway, I used a real dark primer. I don't know if I used black or if I used black brown, which is black brown's a color from Monument that is, it's a primer color that's a real, it's like a really warm black or a super crazy dark brown, one of the two. But I used that, and then I used a couple different airbrush paints from Army Painter, like a darker red and then a lighter red highlight. So, but yeah. But yeah, I like that color. I hadn't painted red in a long time, so yeah, but now eventually I'll be like, oh, that's a lot of red. So Game 4 has zero chance of a reboot then? I mean, you never want to say zero, but there's not any plans for sure. Did you run into the Badcast guys? I did not. I wanted to. I think I saw Cam I think he was playing at one of the streaming tables, like, the GW has up on the stage during the 40K stuff. They have a couple tables up there where they're like, streaming games. Or maybe it was just one table. I don't remember. But I know Paul was there, who does, commentation and stuff. We waved, and I think we chatted for a split second later on at some point during the... I think we got to chat a little bit on Saturday night. There was a live band, and so we chatted a little bit during that. Anyway, I'm pretty sure that Campbell was on one of those tables, but I got put into a Discord chat by Kevin Fowler from Goonhammer, who was not at the show, but he hooked me up with the guys, and then we tried to coordinate, but then it just didn't work out, like, to get together and stuff. So unfortunately I did not get a chance to. But mirrored walls and con halls are always a bit of a freak out. Yeah, we also went to a Mexican restaurant on like one of the first days we were there that also had a mirror, like an entirely mirrored wall, and I was like, wow, this place is huge. Oh no, that's me, never mind, it's not huge. Just started working on my last order from Knights of Dice. Nice. No, where did I go? Wow, I'm way behind. Holy cow. There we go, bad cat. Okay, we would all love double the vendors, even if they all did have just the same stuff. I mean, if they all just had the same stuff, I don't know. But double the vendors would always be, yeah, sure. It's fun to shop, Let's see. When I went to the UKGE, I felt like the dice stands were just 50 the same stand. I mean, how many dice does anyone really need? That is a good question. You're not wrong. They can print the size you want. Sure. I mean, that's the thing, because it's just a very simple thing for the scale to just kind of be scaled. That's so it works out nice. Terran looks like he has shooting on his mind. Also, his barrels are drilled, which is nice. A terrain vendor at Nova was great. His prices were so good, and the quality was great. I grabbed a Cyberpunk ramen noodle shop. Oh, I remember saw that. Yeah. For kill sample process. Nice. I was at the Washington, D.C. Hilton for the Faith and Freedom conference while you were there. We had a huge gala with 2,000 people, lots of dignitaries. You were at the Washington, D.C. Hilton for the Faith and Freedom conference while we were there? There was another conference going on while we were there? I didn't even notice. My goodness. The place is real big. It's real big. Wow, that's pretty cool. Huge gala with 2,000 people. Wow. I have a bunch of projects on the go that I haven't been able to get to because of various family requirements are keeping me from doing much of anything. Soon things will settle to a routine. Well, here's hoping. Absolutely. Good morning from Columbus, Ohio. How you doing? I was at the Kansas City Grand Tournament this year. I cosplayed my Space Marine. Nice. Kyle Gladden from Hudson, Wisconsin. How you doing? Surprised to hear the cicadas droning away outside. I guess it's warmer than I thought. I mean, we get a lot of cicadas, although it was weird. The cicadas in was that DC? No, the cicadas in Fort Wayne. No, wasn't it DC? There was some place where the cicadas sounded totally different and were startling, but I can't remember. I want to say it was probably it did happen at one point while we were in Fort Wayne, because I was in Fort Wayne at this trade show. So there are distributors in the gaming hobby, and what they do is they kind of are a middleman kind of situation between the stores and the manufacturers. As a store owner, you don't want to have to reach out to every different possible manufacturer and then say, I need 2 of these and 1 of these and 6 of these and 2 of these and whatever. And the manufacturers don't want to have to be like, here's 1 copy of this and 2 copies of that and 1 copy. So basically, the manufacturers make stuff, generally ship it to the distributors, and the distributors then ship it to the stores, and they make a little bit of money in between or whatever, blah, blah. So one of the big ones in the States here, at least, is called Alliance Distribution. And so a lot of times these places have trade shows where basically the store owners and their employees can come. You pay a small fee. You come, they feed you. There's seminars for you to sit through and stuff like that to learn about things, learn about new products, all that kind of stuff. And then there's usually like a 1 or 2 day trade show, like a kind of like a vendor hall, except that nobody's buying anything specifically, and it's just store owners and their employees walking around looking at stuff, new stuff or whatever, generally, but stuff from the manufacturers. So I was there because I was helping out the folks from Army Painter. So one guy, Oliver, his name is, came over from Denmark, and he's a sales guy for Army Painter, and it's best if there's 2 people, because otherwise it's hard to set up the booth with 1 person. That's one thing. And then I have set up booths before. I have been to trade shows before. I've talked to people. It's easy. I know the product pretty well. So there were times when people have questions, I'd be like, that I don't know the answer to. You're going to need to talk to, But for the most part, when the booth had lots of people in it, they weren't all standing there waiting to talk to 1 person. You can kind of split it up. So I was doing some of that. So that's why I was in Fort Wayne, Indiana, because that's where the thing was. Another one of those that I've been at is in Madison, Wisconsin, because there's another distributor called ACD that's in Madison, Wisconsin. That's where they're based out of, and that's when they have theirs, and theirs is usually in late May. So anyway, at one point we were walking to dinner, Oliver and I, and a bunch of cicadas kicked in, and he was like startled, because I don't know if they have cicadas in Denmark, but yeah, and they were like right in this tree, like right by us and stuff, as we were going to this like restaurant like after the show one night, and he was like, the heck is that? I'm like, yeah, it's cicadas. So yeah, but we have them here all the time, except not in the winter, obviously. Flying Delta, yes, generally a Delta lad, and I get points. I don't get why we had to change it Atlanta twice. I'm surprised sometimes it's not the case, where you fly someplace, land in Atlanta, get up in a plane, fly around for a while, come back to Atlanta, and then get in it again, and then leave. J-Tick, how you doing? Dragonfall right around the corner? Should be there this year. Nice. Dragonfall is a lot of fun. I enjoy that one. It'll be good to see you again. I got to head to the local Ukrainian street fair, but I got a Majestic 13 question. I hope that you're still here. How come the base sizes are listed on the alien character sheets, even though they're all the same size? Just so that they were there, just so you knew. We didn't want to... We thought about putting it just one spot, saying, hey, aliens are this size. But when we do that, then what happens is that people are like, they don't see that. They just go to the alien that they're looking for. And then they're like, I don't know what base size this is supposed to be. And then on the Discord, we get tons of questions like, hey, what's this base size of the such and such monster? And what's the base size of the such and such monster? So we were like, if we just put it in the little block, the stat block, then, the first time that you play, you're like, I have to go find on page, 112, this monster. And you look at it and say, okay, the base size is that. So it wasn't so much so the base sizes on all the monsters are the same. We just didn't want to put it in one place that you couldn't find. We just wanted to make sure that you knew on all the different monsters what it was. So we just added it into the stat block. It just made more sense from a usability standpoint. But it's not a mistake. It's not like we're going to have some size and some the other size. They're all, like I think it's what, 25 to 40 or something like that, or 40 to 60. I forget exactly the size off the top of my head now. But we just wanted to make sure that a lot of game design is trying to, especially if you've been doing it for a little while, a lot of it is looking at the rules and going, what questions are we going to get over and over and over again? And how can we maybe cut that back? Not that we don't want to answer questions, but if a person has to ask the question, then they don't know the answer, and that's like a pain point, right? So sometimes you make things kind of redundant just so someone would be like, oh, okay, it says right there, cool. And then they don't have to like wonder about it and go, well, how does this work? It's a lot of, that's kind of part of my job also with the game, is that because Vince is doing the majority of the writing and everything, it's my job to then look at it and play dumb guy and be like, well, I don't have to play dumb guy, but you know what I'm saying? Where basically I look at it and I go, yeah, but what about this? And he's like, well, it's here. And I'm like, well, maybe we should put it here as well, so that won't become a thing. And then so that kind of stuff is useful, I think. Had tickets to go to Nova, but work sent me to Portland, Oregon at the same time. That is not Nova. It's a bummer. Wicked bummed. Just moved to Maryland in 2021. This was going to be my first Nova. Well, hopefully next year. Work will do that, though, sometimes, for sure. Celebrating my Hobby Streak Day 1000. Wow, nice. Nice work. Very cool. Finishing out my Black Templars. Nice. Hello from Ireland, working on Conquest Raiders and planning Turnip 28 stuff with friends. Nice. Hello from Sun Prairie. Have you gotten a chance to look at Osprey's The Doomed yet? I did. I ordered a copy on Amazon, just because nobody had it around here. So, it's interesting. It is. There are some things about it that I'm confused by. Like I'm still not completely clear on the whole concept of like, there are just no ranges. That's still weird. Like, I get it for weapons. Like, Majestic 13, and I think, if I remember correctly, Space Station 0, just like, it is assumed that your gun can reach the entirety of the board, because it's not a very big board. You know what I mean? But in this, it's not only like that, but it's also like, there's no movement range. You just kind of, so it's, I don't know. I haven't played it yet, obviously, but I've been reading through it a little bit here and there, and it's a little squirrely in that for me. That's just my opinion. Also, and this is super nitpicky. So the logo here is supposed to be like distressed, right? Like these letters are like beat up because it was probably clean at one point, and now over the ravages of post-apocalyptic time, it's beat up this logo a little bit. But these two O's are beat up in exactly the same way. Now, that it's obvious that this was just a font that was distressed, and they just typed it, and there you go, boom. And same thing, there's a lot of letters that are exactly the same, like the two R's next to each other. The word horror is a hard word to do with a distressed font because it's just a lot. It's only 3 letters, and it's a lot of the same. It's H, it's O, it's R, and it's just a lot of them are kind of near each other and stuff like that. My point is that if it was me, and if I worked for a company as big as Osprey, they're not a small company, and they're owned by a bigger company. It's a whole thing. It's not hard to fix this. It's not hard to make these two O's look a little different from each other. It's just, like if it was an O here and an O someplace else in the word or something like that, and they were the same, okay, but they're two O's right next to each other, and they're identically distressed. If you look at Rain in Hell, the logo for Rain in Hell, I went through, because it was a distressed font, I went through, there's a lot of letters that are duplicated, none next to each other like that, but there's a lot of duplicated letters, I's, E's, L's. Actually, I take that back. The two L's are right next to each other. I went through after I typed it and then converted it all into outlines, and then just kind of changed the distressing and whatnot so that it didn't look like it was the same two L's directly next to each other, kind of stuff like that. It's just that little thing. And again, it has nothing to do with the game. But for me, when I first looked at this, I was just like, come on, man, like just a little bit of work. Anyway, but that's just me. Just got my Ravaged Star miniatures, and they look amazing. They had a booth at Nova, like a huge setup. I mean, not like, well, pretty big for Nova. Not like a giant, like Gen Con type of thing, but still, it was probably a good sized table. It was, I don't know, 6x6 probably, maybe a bit bigger, and it was just covered in those miniatures. There were hundreds of those miniatures all over. It was, yeah, they've got some cool stuff. Recently, I've been experimenting with speed painting alongside acrylics. Some say it's cheating, but I'm enjoying it. What do you think about speed painting as a technique? That's in quotes. Why is that in quotes? Speed painting as a technique, I use it all the time. Like, all the time. I have a bunch of speed paints, as a matter of fact, right here. What colors do I have? Let's see here. Runic Gray. Maggot Skin. That's fun. The thing I also love about these two now is this, so they've got this color called Maggot Skin, but if you look at the bottom, it just says pale yellowish green as well, which is, you know, descriptive and helpful. So yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of speed painting. I do it a lot. That's the majority of what I do. And I use speed paints specifically a ton. I use them as intended, but I also use them as glazes by kind of thinning them down. Stuff like that. There's a lot you can do with that type of paint, and I have no problem with that. Like, and I do mix it. I'll start out, use airbrush, especially with something that's armored, like a Space Marine, where they're predominantly in one color. I'm going to start out by priming and then base coating with my airbrush in that main color. And now most of the armor is at least started, if not sometimes situations almost done. And then I go through and then I do some speed paints on top of things. I do some washes on top of things. You know, if they got the helmet off for some reason. Again, I don't know why Space Marines would ever take their helmet off during a battle, but whatever. Then I'm going in there with opaques to paint faces, silver stuff, you know, or whatever, any metallics, things like that. But yeah, mixing all of those different things together is what gives you a good paint job. If you're like, nope, I only do opaques and I never do washes and I never do speed paints. Okay, I mean, that's the way you want to paint. Cool, but I would rather crank stuff out as quickly as possible and make it look as good as possible within that amount of time. So yeah, for me, speed paints mixed with opaque paints, mixed with washes, mixed with enamel washes down the road if I want to, towards the end, you know. But the trick is, if you're going to do the enamel wash, like towards the end, then don't do all the fancy stuff in the previous part. If you're going to do an enamel wash, and I made a video about this some time back, paint everything very simply and then do the enamel wash. If you go through and highlight and edge highlight and throw in some washes down here to darken the shade underneath, that's all going to get lost when you throw the enamel wash over the top of it. It's just going to be like, well, you wasted your time on that. So just go super simple, kind of flat colors. You can maybe do a zenithal if you want to do that kind of thing. But yeah, once you get into the point where you're like, I'm going to grunge this up pretty hardcore with some enamel wash and then wipe it away and all that kind of stuff, all that extra work of shading and this and that, it all gets disappeared. So you don't need to worry about it. Bummed I only have finished 3 models since June. Not going to help my yearly total. Well, that's sure, but you know, things happen. One character states that dealing with them about dice is like dealing with the NRA about gun control. Huh. Nostalgia goggles, indeed. When I was in the military, I had a flight booked for me that went Appleton, Chicago, Milwaukee. I mean, at least it's not Appleton, Atlanta, Milwaukee. That would be real weird. But yeah, no, I get that. Working on Wraith King right now. Small and relaxing. Small and relaxing is nice, yeah. Chipmunks are vandals, almost as bad as teenagers or raccoons. It's true. Or squirrels. Been watching a lot of Tale of Four painters on different YouTube channels lately. Really inspirational. I've not heard of that. The only movie I'm keen to see in cinemas in ages is A Haunting in Venice. You didn't go to Barbie? I did not go to Barbie. No. I'm vaguely interested in seeing it. I'm sure I'll watch it when it comes on Netflix or some other service or whatever, but that's about it. Hello from a rainy Bristol. Glad we've got another Sunday stream. Looking forward to catching stream on a hobby this evening. Nice. Well, we're glad to have you. I think you can watch the movie on one of the apps online now. Barbie? Yeah, well, I mean, I think you can. Yeah, that's true. But I think you have to pay for it to rent. So I'm like, we'll see, I suppose. Have you ever thought about doing super chats? I thought at first that said super cats, and I was interested, but I didn't know what it was. But now I see what you said. Super chats, especially now that the channel's taking more of your time. I probably ought, but the thing that sort of a little bit bothers me about super chats is that it is kind of pay to play. Like if you want, like especially, and I've seen this happen a bunch. I watched a video years ago on this channel about like, I think it's called Video Creators is the name of the channel. I don't know. Anyway, the idea basically was that this guy had a live stream, which I had missed, and I was going to watch the rerun. And he, like, in the title, he had like this one thing that I wanted to know about. I was like, oh, that's a video I should watch. That's interesting. And I was like, huh, it's like an hour long. That's weird. And then I'm like, oh, it's a live stream. So he must, I mean, maybe he went really in depth. Well, no, what happened was he would start talking about the thing, and then somebody would drop $10 on him and ask him another question that was not related to that thing. And then he would, you know, that person paid $10. And so he would answer that question and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then he would go back to answering the initial thing, the subject. And then somebody like admittedly in an hour, he made like $200, right? Like, you know, $200 is $200. But as a person watching it later, I was like, I gave up. I'm like, well, I'm not going to find out what it was that, you know, what the answer to this, the title of the video is going to, because I just didn't want to sit there and have to go through. So that left a bit of a bad taste in my mouth. It's not a bad idea, but I just don't know. I don't know. I have to think about it a little bit more. I mean, there's part of me sometimes that also wants to do the, I don't know. There was a part of me for a hot second that I was thinking about like, well, what if I did the YouTube memberships? I guess it's memberships, right? Instead of like Patreon. You know, I think I talked about that on one of the Patreon shows. Because the YouTube membership thing now allows you to do Discord. They've partnered with Discord so that can still work like the Patreon thing does. But you get these other benefits as well that are YouTube centric and things like that. The problem is that I'm concerned about putting all my eggs into YouTube's basket. So, yeah. And I also kind of don't want to double dip. I'm a little bit like, I don't want to have there be like two groups of supporters. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's something to ponder, but I appreciate the question though. That being said, I still want super cats though. I don't know what those would be, but that sounds pretty cool. Could they fly? That's maybe not necessarily a good idea. Now that I come to think of it, cats that could fly is not necessarily a good idea. Long time no Sunday chat. Oh, I know. I was on the road again. Just started filming my father-in-law's gaming club I'm involved in and realized that half of my videos were shot in portrait, which is apparently a no-no. I mean, well, a no or a no-go. Either way, if you're doing it for, you know, YouTube Shorts, or if you're doing it for TikTok, I guess, or Instagram Reels or something, well, then that totally makes sense. But if you are like, I want to make a regular YouTube video about this, and then you shoot in portrait this way, it is, yeah, it's not the best. You want to generally shoot this way if you're doing a normal YouTube thing. But if you're doing one of those short form things, then yeah, that's the way to go. As a matter of fact, like I've shot short form stuff at conventions recently, and instead of using my phone, I've been using a little Sony kind of pocket camera that is a really nice little camera. It's called a ZV1, ZV1, and V is in Victor. And when you turn it sideways, it formats the file to be sideways so that when you open it up on your Mac or PC or whatever, you don't have to then put it into your editing software and then turn it because it was shot sideways. It's already oriented that way, which is actually, it's a little thing, but it's super nice. It's just to not have to mess with it. So, yeah, I've been doing that kind of stuff. I want to see guys in full flight, no stand, just hovering, some sort of like superconductors, semiconductors, super semiconductors. I don't know. I'm not sure how you make that happen, but I think that, I mean, the stuff's that expensive. It could, you know, why not? Last movie I saw was Kong Skull Island. That was a good movie. Like in the theaters or just in general? Because I've seen movies in general. I just watched The Flash on Friday after my stream. It was okay. The middle was good. Well, not good. The middle was the best part. The beginning was not great. And the end was, but yeah, it was. I'm glad I didn't pay for it. Let's just say that. I'm in Croatia for holiday visiting my grandparents. Love the new Space Marine 2 game. Looks so well designed. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that for sure. On the flight stand front, why does GW suggest that you don't glue them? My Eldar Wind Riders look like they were getting a DUI. I'm pinning them. I think part of the reason is because... Part of it is because if you use super glue, then it makes the clear thing not clear anymore. Kind of makes it all foggy. Because the vapor from the super glue then turns the plastic white, kind of. So maybe that's part of it. I don't know. That's a good question. You ever read the First Law series by Joe Abercrombie? Best audiobooks I ever did hear. I don't think I've heard of that. No. I like flight stands, but I've seen aftermarket and 3D print solutions where they have streams of exhaust smoke come from the jump packs and they just took off. The exhaust works like a flight stand. Yeah, I've seen that too. I don't generally like smoke. Like, I don't like it when GW like models smoke or fire or vapor or magical, hootenanny, powers or what. Whenever they model that unmodelable stuff, it always just like they make some of the best models of the world until they decide, well, let's put some flame on the end of that flamethrower. Like, no, don't do that. I don't know, because it looks weird every time, and it's also a giant pain in the butt to paint. So that's a problem as well. Wile E. Coyote never needed no rock to make his rockets work. Now roller skates. Now that's what we need. Is we need the Assault Primaris on roller skates. I would buy a bunch of those. That would be dope. Honestly, you could probably 3D print something if you got something designed. Just have them on roller skates. That'd be hysterical. Let's see here. I'm intrigued by Osprey's The Doomed, a kitbasher's dream reputedly, and also supposed to be impossible to win or survive. That I don't know about, but definitely, sure, yeah. It's a miniatures agnostic style game, so it's definitely something you can kitbash for fun. I mean, the pictures in there are definitely a lot of weird kitbash stuff, which I enjoy. Have you met any recent marketing graduates? I haven't, no. You are a craftsman and know what to look for in type and layout. I've been doing it for a long time, and I am also sometimes fussy about that type of stuff. So for sure, I'm just saying they should give me a call. That's all I'm saying. And just I will definitely, for a small fee, be a consultant for their stuff or whatever. I don't know. Good morning. How goes it today? Not too bad. Nice and sunny. It's not too hot. Talking to you nice folks are having it's a good time. I love me some graphics nitpick. Indeed. Malev, how you doing? I just was, I haven't started working on it yet, Malev, but I got my demon ship stuff right here, which I'm gonna, it smells all nice and wood burny, so I'll be working on that stuff soon. Looking forward to that. No such thing as cheating when you're painting models you bought. Absolutely. Malev knows. You can look at it, know something's off, and have the knowledge to recommend it. Sure. My wife got me the Mega Pack for my birthday. Mega Pack's a good one. And you know what's really cool about the new Speed Paint 2.0s that I've just recently kind of discovered? The metallics. The metallic speed paints. Nobody else makes metallic speed paints. We were messing around with them there was these demo nights at the trade show that I was at. So if you show up as a manufacturer who makes board games, then on demo nights, then you get a table because you have a booth, but you get a table at this other room and you can teach people how to play your game. And then you have these stickers that you give out, and then they get enough stickers that they put in a thing, and then they go up to a thing, and then the store owner gets some free product. They spin a wheel. There was a whole thing going on there, but we just know people would, come over and we would show them the speed paints a little bit and even let them paint a little bit, stuff like that or whatever. And then they would be like, hey, can I have the sticker? Yeah, great. Okay. Anyway, it's kind of the same thing. I think they do it with tickets at the ACD trade show. Except I think at ACD trade show they're giving away scratch and dent stuff. I don't know if they're doing that. Maybe it's scratch and dent. I don't know at Alliance. I'm not sure. Anyway, so it was the first time I tried the gold. I think it's called Hoplite Gold. And we just had some like models that we got from the guys over at Warlord. So we got some like World War II guys. It was like a box of like, I think it was American and Japanese. And we just put them together as quickly as possible so we had something to paint. And I'm pretty sure we mixed up a lot of parts. So I think there was a lot of like American dudes with Japanese heads and vice versa, and like the wrong guns and all that kind of stuff. But it was whatever. So we cranked that out, and then we hand primed them with white, which worked okay. But yeah, we didn't plan far enough ahead. This was kind of a last minute, like, oh, we should do this. And in the past, I guess, in the big giant wooden crates that the booth moves around in, you know, it was at Nova like the week before, and then it was in at the trade show. Anyway, usually there's a bunch of primed white models in there for this very thing, but they weren't in there, or maybe we just couldn't find them. I'm not sure, but I don't think they were in there. I think they were probably out. Anyway. So long story short is I just took one of those army guys and just painted him gold just to see what the stuff was like. And it's really cool. I've been starting to use the stuff myself downstairs. And like I did some, I'm working on a combat patrol for the Astra Militarum. And one of the guys in the command squad is carrying a big flag, you know, and it's all 3D, like it's 3-dimensional kind of, you know, textured, so you don't have to, you can't well, I suppose if you sanded everything away you could then freehand your own flag, but it's giving you the design and you just basically paint it in. It's kind of like paint by numbers almost a little bit, but I wanted to have it look like it had some like maybe gold leaf or something on it, or I don't know what. Anyway, it worked out really well. I used the Hoplite Gold and another color called Broadsword Silver, I think. But there's a third color in the mega set that's also maybe like a bronze or copper or something like that. But in the complete set, like there's a whole line. There's like 2 or 3 golds, 2 or 3 different silvers of differing lightness and darkness. Some, again, copper, bronze. There's like, I think, a metallic green. There's a bunch of different colors, and they're all speed paints. So they're super fluid, but they're also surprisingly kind of opaque. But they do kind of depend. If you paint it over white, it is a brighter color than if you paint it over black. So it's opaque, but maybe not completely opaque. I don't know. They're really interesting. Nobody else that I've seen that makes, you know, contrast speed painty type paints. So nobody else is doing metallics, and I think they're really cool. So, Army Painter practical naming chart is a lifesaver. Yeah, I just really enjoy the fact, like, they've got crazy names for some of the stuff too, but then if you just look further down on the label, it's like, this is a pale reddish blue. That's not a thing. I made that one up, but you know what I'm saying. So fellow graphic artists, I can agree, identical distressing like that on fonts does reek of laziness. I mean, maybe it's just a quick, you know, like, got to get this done, but I don't know. They spent a bunch of time on the book. I'm sort of surprised they didn't on the logo. I had a recent encounter with some maggots, and I feel I could accurately judge their color. Oh, well, that's, yeah, generally they're kind of off-white, the ones that I've seen. I haven't seen any in a while, thankfully, so knock on wood for that. What do you recommend for a cheap airbrush? That's an interesting question. In this here box from Amazon, I have one that I ordered just recently. I think it was $70, and it is one of those like rechargeable compressors, but not the kind where it's attached directly to the bottom of the airbrush. I got one of those one time, and the airbrush just didn't work. Just nothing. It, like, as soon as you turned on the compressor, it was just blowing air no matter what you did. It just was like, well, okay. So I unscrewed it, put one of my airbrushes on there, and it worked out fine, but you can't control the, you know, whatever, the pressure and stuff like that. This one is different though. It's the same type of kind of compressor, but there's a hose in between. So you're not holding the airbrush and the compressor like a big, like a, you know, because it's roughly the size of, like, I don't know, maybe a Red Bull kind of can, you know what I mean? So you're holding both of those things in your hand, and this instead is like, again, about a Red Bull can, maybe a little bit bigger, but it's on a hose, so you could set it over here, and then you're just having this. So I'm going to give it a try. I obviously haven't even opened the box yet. I could do a live unboxing right here, but that's not particularly interesting in my opinion. Maybe it is. But yeah, it was, like I said, it was about $70. It was on Amazon. I don't have the link off the top of my head, but it's one of those things where you're looking at something else on Amazon and they're like, hey, you might like this, and you're like, yeah, you're kind of right. I might want to try that out again, just for science, just for the channel. But I like the fact that there's a hose in there, just because I think, the all in one piece in your hand, that's gonna, especially if you're using it for a bit, that can get a little bit too much. Let's see. Trying to get somebody in the hobby. Which paint do I need? Dreadful, bloody, angry demon spit isn't very inviting. True. That's also true. I get that. Barbie was highly entertaining. I've heard good things, obviously. It made like $1 billion or whatever. So, if something makes money, it can't be bad, right? I'm sure it's fine. I was being facetious about capitalism there. Hi from a wet Surrey, UK. Managed to find white poppets. Had to wait 3 weeks to arrive from China, but they look ideal. Nice. Yeah, even the one that I've got is like beige. It's not white, but that's pretty good. Picked up Rune Wars cheap on eBay. Models look fun. Have you played it? I either intently watched or actually played a demo of it years and years and years and years ago at Adepticon. I think it was the year where they gave it away for free. Like, it was like, who was it? Fantasy Flight? That was Fantasy Flight, right? Fantasy Flight was like, hey, we got this new idea for a great game. It's going to be awesome. And they put it out there. And like, if you got the swag bag at Gen Con, it was $100 game at the time. It was a big, thick box. I think it's still in my basement, unopened probably. Because the thing was, a lot of people were like, huh, look at that. And they put it on eBay when they got home. Some of the models are cool looking. I specifically like the Undead. I remember liking the Undead quite a bit, but I'm not a rank and flank guy, and that's kind of a rank and flank game, which is fine if you're into that. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, they didn't, they tried to support it for a while. They came up with some extra stuff, and people kind of just collectively yawned, it seemed, which is a bummer. But, I almost wonder if just throwing it out there and getting it out there so easily, if that devalued it. I'm sure that somebody in marketing somewhere was like, well, if everybody's got it, then they're going to start to play it. And then their friends who didn't get it because they didn't go to Adepticon will want to play it as well. Sometimes when you give things away for free, then people don't put any value on it. And I think maybe that's where it came from. I don't know. Super Cats. Barbie movie was Omega lit. Nice. I love YouTube streams, by the way. Twitch app doesn't work on my TV. No kidding. Oh. I watch Twitch on my TV sometimes, but it's not ideal because you can't chat, and chatting is a kind of a big thing. But yeah, but YouTube streams, yeah, the YouTube stuff works pretty well on TV as well. Super Cats would be awesome until you try keeping something away from them. You know what I mean? Did you get any of the squirrel figures at the Monster Fight Club booth? No. I didn't see squirrel. Or wait, no, I did see squirrels. No, I did see somebody had a squirrel. You're right. Now that I come at Gen Con, I think that you're right. I did not get one, though. Vince tried to make a robot squirrel at the Hero Forge booth on one of their iPads. It's the company that where you can kind of do the like 3D sculpted, like basically you can get design like I want a dragon person lady this high. It's kind of like when you're designing a person in like a video game RPG at the beginning, except then you press a button and then you either you pay like money and they either print it and send it to you, or they sell you the STL and then you can print it yourself. But yeah, Hero Forge, it's pretty cool. Anyway, he was messing around with their app on the iPad and was trying to make a robot squirrel, and it didn't work out. I mean, they have a squirrel, but it's not like a main model. I think it was the base little something. You could have like, your model standing on a base, and there's also a squirrel on the base. But yeah, that was as far as we could go. Super Pets is already a thing. Interesting. I now have the Samurai Pizza Cats theme in my head. Nice. Both Barbie and Oppenheimer look good, but are streaming type movies for me not a big screen must see. Yeah, no, I don't disagree. My hope is to see Oppenheimer eventually someday on my watch. Because it would just, I know somewhere Christopher Nolan would be slightly sad because I'm not watching it in IMAX at a theater. I'm just like, hey, look at that. I'm just watching the whole movie right there on my watch, just to annoy him a little bit. I like a bunch of his work, but he got insufferable during the early days of the pandemic when Tenet was coming out, and he was like refusing, like, no, I will not allow it to be coming out on HBO like some peasant or whatever. You have to go see it in the movie theater. And people are like, it's not a good idea right now. And he was being weird about it. And so I like to tease him when we see each other at breakfast. I've never met the man, obviously. But yeah, he doesn't know who I am. But still, I just like to try to watch his things not in theaters. It's not hard, actually, since I don't go to theaters that much anymore. There's a YouTuber who has a text-to-speech turned on for his super chats. So if somebody pays their text, has read over what he's saying, so freaking annoying to try to watch the videos. Yep, I've seen that too before. I don't like it. I don't like, and I don't begrudge anybody who does it, but for me, I see a lot of streamers who build almost a slightly adversarial kind of like relationship with their chat. You know what I mean? Like they're like, well, hey, if you pay, you know, this much, or you donate this much or whatever, blah, 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 then I'll do this thing that they don't want to do. Like sometimes it's like play a game like, oh, now it's all just pistol mode for the next 4 minutes, you know? So I can't use a regular gun anymore. I have to use a pistol in my video game or whatever, or knives only or stuff like that. Things to like make it. And I just don't ever want to kind of foster that. Not that necessarily Super Chats does that, but it can do that, especially if you do the text to speech thing like that. Yeah, because all of a sudden it's just like some person yammering over and maybe they say, like, I've seen people who are like, they will just type in like LOL, but like repeatedly, like, so then it's just a robot voice going la 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 for like, you know, 2 minutes or whatever. I don't need to do that, thanks. If super chats were enabled, I would contribute that way gladly to help support the hobby content. I appreciate. Well, I appreciate that too, for sure. Super Cats, Cat Police, Robot Squirrel, Super Sunday Show. There you go. Boom. Cats that could fly would be fine. My cat would then just not choose to. She's a fat, lazy fluff ball. There's nothing wrong with that. I think at this point, Diesel would not be interested in flying. He has, I just was thinking about this recently. He has not, that I've seen. I'll have to check with my wife. I don't think he's encountered a bumblebee for which he then would like, because in the past, we'll stand around outside for a while and stuff like that, and he'll sniff things and chew on grass and whatever. And there have been several situations in which a big fat bumblebee will bumble over by him and then he will punch it. There was also, this was probably 2 years ago, like we were standing outside, I was like on my phone or whatever, and then I looked down and he's like laying down in the grass and he's got both of his paws in front of him and he's looking at his paws. I'm like, what are you doing? And he like lifted up a paw, and then this bumblebee like came, like he had trapped it on the grass. And it was just like, because bumblebees are always drunk. And then he like bopped it, and I was like, stop hitting the bee. And but yeah, he's not he chased a moth for about 5 feet once that I remember this summer, but so far he hasn't come across any bumblebees. I think that most of the bumblebees have migrated to our front yard, because the front yard is full of milkweed for the bumblebees and also for the monarch butterflies. That is the concept. I know Adam Savage's channel, he had his memberships via his website, and then he hid YouTube memberships, ran them in tandem for a bit. Now he just bundles it all into YouTube, more streamlined. It is streamlined to do it that way, but again, like I said, I'm a little nervous about doing the whole all the eggs in one basket, because YouTube could come along and go, hey, guess what, we're doing this thing differently, and then you're like, oh crap. I mean, they're doing that now. They're changing ads coming up in November or whatever, the way that we can kind of control them, which I'm not cool with. But anyway, I 3D print smoke trails for jetpack Marines. The sculpting can be hard on that and can look a little cartoony. My biggest problem is that I can never paint them to look good. You know what I mean? That's the issue. Like, you can sculpt them to look great sometimes, but then I'm like, yeah, but now how do I paint that to make it look like it's really smoke? It's just, for me, it's just a thing. I don't know. Super Chat Intrusion is not a good model. I agree. Tabletop Titans has done a good job of splitting the difference. They pool them until a lull in action or pause in conversation to answer them. Sure. Let's see. I was way behind all of a sudden here. Iron Man had roller skates. Why not Marines? These are the questions. Smoke trails on Mandalorians and Shatterpoint. Yeah, I gotta be honest, I don't really like the Shatterpoint models that much. There's just something, the aesthetic doesn't strike me. I don't think they're poorly done. They're almost like, they're a lot like the cartoons, and I'm just like, I don't know why. Flash was kind of a mess with some nice nerd moments. Sure. Best audiobook I've heard was World War Z. World War Z is a spectacular audiobook. It's really good. Yeah. Yeah. Never finished the first Space Marine, and then my PS3 died. I played it on the Xbox 360, and I did finish it. I now have it on my Steam Deck. It was like $8 for like the Super Giant Anniversary Edition or whatever for the original Space Marine. But I'm very much looking forward to the next one, which I will play on the PS5, I think. Did some smoke plumes in my Orc Storm Boys. Looks amazing, and that's the squall everyone looks at first when they see my army. Nice. Ever thought about making a Space Station Zero video game? I mean, neither of us is a programmer, so we wouldn't be able to do that, sadly. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess if somebody came to us and was like, look, we're an indie video game company, we have this idea, we want to use your thing and whatever, your property, or I mean, there's a potential, I guess, there, but yeah, we don't have any kind of background in any of that stuff. Like, I can do graphics. Obviously, I've been doing been a graphic designer using a computer since the 90s, but early 90s. But yeah, no, I've that's as far as I've gotten. Neither of us is programmers. Listen to a bunch of audiobooks, and generally they're pretty good for listening while hobbying. Yeah, I listen to audiobooks quite frequently when I'm hobbying. Demon Ship is awesome. I'm very much looking forward to building the board. I love the concept there, and kind of the small but play. Yeah, I like that a lot. I'm an English teacher with several years of magazine editing at the college and indie level, and I'm considering trying to get back into that. Do you have any advice? Trying to get back into editing. I'm not a particularly good editor. Generally, we have a person that we pay to do the copy editing on our games, and then after that, after it's gone through that, then we also hand it off to my wife, and because she's very good at catching things. So, but yeah, I don't have any experience in that kind of stuff. Had my daughter take a video of me interviewing a local con's owners, and she turned the camera sideways mid-video, so the video flips. I've been struggling to fix it. Ideas. Yeah, that's hard when you're filming a clip and then you turn it the other way, or vice versa. Your best bet would probably be to cut the clip where the rotate happens, and then go from, like, let's say it was landscape, and then she goes the other way, or vice versa, whatever. But when it goes to portrait, some editing software has a thing where you can basically, it will like take the portrait video and then basically like show that in the middle of the stream, but then blow up like a bigger version that is then blurry that goes behind it, so that it's not just black bars on the side. You can also fake that sometimes too, but sometimes it's just like a setting in some editing software now. That's the only thing I can think of. But yeah, that is tough to fix, because otherwise you have to zoom in so much that you're just seeing like this much of the person. That's not helpful either necessarily. Any tips on painting depth in flames on a flat surface? No, unfortunately. That sounds like a Sam question. I know did he just do a video about flames and smoke and stuff like that? I thought he did. Not like just, but like within the last couple of months. Flash was pretty okay. I never been a fan of any of this multiverse garbage. Gotcha. Did anyone fund Revenant's run? I know it hit its goal in like 4 hours and something. Yeah. I get very excited about the shape of trees and rocks when building gardens at work. Sure, yeah. Do you think it matters what primer base coat you use for the speed paints metallics? Like I said, I have a suspicion, and I haven't tried this, but I wonder if putting it over white makes it just a touch brighter. than if you just put it over, say, black or a gray. Like that flag that I was painting for the Imperial Guard, that whole thing was primed like, well, it was primed. Initially, I primed them black, but then a good portion of that flag was then sprayed with a base color called uniform gray, and which is kind of a cool gray. So a lot of that was over that kind of cool gray, but I wanted it to be kind of a little bit not so pop out in your face, kind of bright metallic, and so it was a little bit maybe dull, or not dull, subtle. I don't know. Again, it'd be one of those things that'd probably be a good idea to test, but I haven't done it yet. Good enough for Custodes? Yeah, I think so. Especially if you then wanted to go back and like maybe highlight very specific spots. Yeah, but I was really impressed with the gold and the silver too. A lot of the YouTubers seem to hate on the AP speed metallics. That's weird. I haven't seen that. My experience is they're pretty decent, but you have to shake the ever-living crap out of them. I mean, you have to do that with most paints, really. The ones that and I understand the reasoning why, but the ones that are the worst that you really have to shake out are the dirty down, like rust and that kind of stuff. Like those, you could sit there and handshake them for a while and you'll still be like, no, I can still see that little rattle ball and that's stuck to the bottom still. It's not moving. So yeah, with those, I have to go put them on my vortex or whatever and really shake them. And then that helps, because if you don't do that, you don't get that's all oxidized metal basically that's at the bottom of there. If you let it sit for a while, it all sits down there. So you want that to be part of the stuff that you're painting on. Otherwise you'll put it on there and be like, this didn't do anything. Well, that's because all the actual oxidized metal or all the metal that's going to get oxidized as it dries is all down in the bottom of the thing. So yeah. I also recently just tried out the metal speed paints. They look amazing over the top of a metal spray coat. They look okay over white. Over black, they just end up looking too murky. I didn't do it over black, but like I said, I was over that kind of like a cool mid gray, and I liked the way that they looked. But they're not. I also didn't use the brightest of them either. Like Hoplite, I think, is a slightly darker gold, and that Broadsword Silver is a little bit darker gold too. But they do have brighter golds and brighter silvers as well. Have you tried Turbo Dork's color shifting paints? Oh, sure. Yeah. I did some. Well, the most recent time I used the stuff was for Majestic 13 when I did the videos about like what is the game and stuff like that, or those monsters in the videos. Those are both like WizKids, like D&D style monsters, and I just sprayed them with different Turbo Dork colors, and then they look like aliens. It's real fast. Let's see here. Seem perfect for lizardmen and dinosaurs. Oh yeah, no, for sure. And bugs, Tyranids. I've used them on Tyranids. They work great for that. Can't think of anything else to use them on. I've no. Yeah, so I used the first time I ever used this stuff was I had a Nurgle Pusgoyle Blightlord. That might be the right name. Who is to say? It's basically a big fat guy riding on a big giant bug, right? I think it comes in a box of 2 or 3 of them, but I was using one of them for a Warcry warband. And so you got this big guy, he's sitting on a giant bug, and I used this color called, I think, Dark Net, which is a blackish, metallic-y, greenish color, and that's what I used on the wings on that creature. And it was a Turbo Dork color, and I brushed that on. And then I did a kill team of Tyranids just before Kill Team went from 2018 version to the new 2021 version that I'm not a fan of. And those guys, all their hard, bony, kind of carapace-y armory bits were all done with a color called Twin Suns from Army Painter. And I also did a bunch of... and that was also brushed on. But for airbrush, I did a bunch of Night Haunts and used a bunch of different colors from... I can't think of the names of the colors, but there were 3 different ones. There was like a kind of a mother of pearl one, which might have been called Mother Load. And then there was like a bluish one and more of a purplish one. But I did a bunch of different Night Haunt ghost folks. Let's see here. I think the descriptive color labels are Brent from Goobertown's influence. I know that when they were looking at Speed Paint 2.0, it was something he suggested. Sure, makes sense. Have you tried? I read that one. Let's see here. Color shifting paints ought to be a hit for car modelers. Oh, I can see that for sure. Thank you for the live stream. Always the best part of my every other Saturday. But it's Sunday, though. Well, I suppose it depends. No, I think it's pretty much Sunday everywhere. It might be Monday where you are if you're in Australia, but testers make a non-fogging glue just for clear plastic model windows. Well, that's kind of nice. Rune Wars was Fantasy Flight Games shortly after X-Wing. Yep. Well, because it had a lot of those little turny wheel dial things that it had. They were pulling some design bits rules wise from X-Wing, because X-Wing was riding real high at that point. I watch Twitch on my TV and on my phone to chat. It's funny that the stream is a couple seconds ahead of my phone. Yeah, I've done that too. Thoughts on the Rivenstone Kickstarter going belly up and all the YouTube content creators that did paid content for it? Well, I don't. Is it for sure? I backed the Kickstarter for Rivenstone. I didn't do any content about it, but I backed the Kickstarter. I'm going to, in theory, when they eventually do show. I did the I did the two factions, Risen, which are the undead dudes, and then the other guys whose name I can't remember, but they're basically dwarves. So I've been getting pretty much weekly updates recently since all of this went to crap. And so they're still working on it. I think there's only literally 3 people who were there working on it. Then I was also sort of dumb enough as well to back their new paint line. So the most recent thing I saw about the paint line was they did send off payment to a manufacturer, maybe to get the bottles or to get I don't know. It was like $66,000 they sent off to this company, and then they showed the receipt basically like, look, we've paid them. This is moving forward. We're not, So I don't know. I don't expect to see either of them, but maybe I will. That'd be cool. I don't know exactly what happened. I'm not sure. I don't know. I know there's a video floating around it about it, but I don't know. I don't know what happened, but it is a bummer. But it's the thing. It's just one of those things that shows you, you got to be careful with Kickstarters. That's just a thing. It's just the way it works. It does sound a little bit like they were doing that thing where they would do a Kickstarter and then they would spend the money on stuff, and then they would do another Kickstarter to fund the first Kickstarter, and then I don't know. It's real tough to get yourself in that situation, and it's real tough to get yourself out of it. That's another one of the many reasons why Vince and I don't want to do Kickstarters generally. Titancraft is my go-to figure designer. Gotcha. It's sunny and nice outside. Who knew? I mean, that happens, Let's see here. Hope Diesel's health is good. Yeah, he's doing fine. He's old and crotchety, but yeah, he's doing okay. Sunday fun day, painting some Warcry later. Nice. I know it's not directly their fault, but what are your thoughts on sponsored content and creators selling their audience to companies like that? Friday's video was a sponsored video from the folks at iDemo Games, with the Revenant's Run. I think that the way that I look at it is this: if you believe in the stuff, if you look at the models, like I like that model, that vehicle is very cool, and so I was like, I want to paint that. That's cool, and I know I can do something to show like how to paint vehicles quickly. So I do sponsored content from time to time, not tons of it. And I don't do stuff that doesn't make sense to the channel. I've done sponsored content before for Audible, but I use Audible all the time. Like that's what I listen to with my audiobooks and stuff like that. I've done some other things like Anvil, or not Anvil Industries, sorry, Archvillain Games. They make like they have a Patreon thing. Generally, I stay away from Kickstarters. This last week is technically a Game Found, which is a crowdfunding thing, kind of like Kickstarter, but I kind of like the Game Found stuff a little better than Kickstarter, frankly, personally. But they had already, like, by the time that video went up, they already hit their goal, so I feel fine about that. Secondly, it's STLs and most of the stuff's already designed, but it's also print stuff too. But again, it's not like, oh, we have to wait for manufacturing. They're going to be printing it all. I don't know if they're going to do it in-house, but it is not, well, we got to get molds made. We got to get this made. It's fancy, expensive, big industrial 3D printing, not like, Elegoo Saturn in the basement kind of thing, right? But yeah, I don't generally like to do Kickstarter sponsorships. I will do Kickstarter Twitch things, you know. I'll do sponsorships in that situation because I also know that those won't be around forever. It's like 60 days and the video disappears. So I don't know. If it's something where you're trying to make enough content and you're trying to make it a full-time job, then doing a sponsorship from time to time doesn't, I don't think that is a problem, you know. And if it turns out, like, so many Kickstarters make it, or, you know, eventually make it at the very least, the Kickstarter that doesn't happen seems to generally be fewer and far between. So sometimes you're just like, hey, you know, these guys, I mean, to be perfectly honest, maybe they paid too many Rivenstone folks, maybe Broken Anvil Miniatures, right? Bam. Yeah, Broken Anvil Miniatures. Very possibly they might have paid too many influencers, for lack of a better word. They might have paid too many of them to get this stuff out there, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, shoot, now we're out of money, you know, or whatever the deal is. I don't know. I don't know what the finances are with that and stuff like that, but, you know, it's very difficult to make a go of it just taking money from just YouTube video ads. You know what I mean? Like that's why you see people doing Patreons and other things and stuff like that and whatever. As of at least yesterday, my paintbrushes are back in stock over at Monument Hobbies. So, you know, they may not be now. I was evidently kind of a limited, but, you know, you can give it a try. But yeah, so I don't have a problem with people trying to make some money there. I think that sometimes I've seen channels that just like advertise stuff, and this is not even just within wargaming. This is within all YouTube in general. Like, it'll be a photography channel, and they'll be like talking about HelloFresh. I'm like, okay, great, they eat. I get that. Everyone eats, but I just like I probably at least once every week, if not once every 2 weeks, I get someone who reaches out and is like, hey, we love your channel here over at such and such media. No, you don't. Oh, we watch it all the time. It's great. Yeah, we sit around in the break room and watch your channel all the time. Hey, we got a thing where you should do a HelloFresh ad. Well, if you actually paid attention, you'd know I generally don't cook. So why would I? Would you know? Yeah, all the time. It's just a barrage. When you get to a certain size, it is a barrage of like, hey, 3D printer, HelloFresh, Clash of Clans. I don't even know if that's still a thing anymore, but it probably is. A lot. Raid Shadow Legends. Ooh. I've said this before. If you ever see me do an ad for Raid Shadow Legends, know that they paid me $15,000, because I always come back to them when they send that to me, and they're like, hey, would you like to do that? I'm like, yeah, sure, 15 grand. And they're always like, well, I mean, that's a little bit more than the client was hoping to spend. I'm like, well, that is too bad. That is a real bummer, because that's how much it's going to take. Oh, also, if you ever see me do that, don't watch that video. Don't. If it's a video by me and it's like, Raid Shadow Legends is awesome, just don't watch it. That'd be great. So yeah, I like try to be picky, but you can sometimes decide this sounds like it's a good idea, and sometimes it's not. Diesel sounds like the best cat. Lately, he sounds... he like makes weird noises when he sleeps. Like, he's been snoring. He's been doing that for years. But sometimes he also is just like sleeping. He's just like, meh. He just makes these weird sort of like, they're not quite groans. I don't know what they are. He is a character. He's 18 years old, if you're wondering as well. I don't know if I can, this won't work like it does on, he's on my, this is a picture of him on my phone. He's my lock screen there. Anyway. One of my cats was messing with something, and I looked down and saw a black widow scurrying away. That's scary. You don't want that. Love watching movies in the theater, but not interested in Barbie or any Nolan movie. I used to like going to the theater, but it's just gotten so, like, people. It just, yeah. Saw the new Ninja Turtles in the theater recently, and it was great. Jackie Chan is hilarious as Splinter. Nice. I can see that. Makes sense, yeah. No, I do want to see that eventually when it comes out on TV. Vince just put out a video on smoke. Maybe it was Vince instead of Sam. Yep, you're right. You're right. Gets to the point where only super chat questions get answered. Yeah, I don't want to do that either. I've stopped watching some channels' live battle reports because the super chats were so disruptive. Feels bad and quite shady concept. Not a fan. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yet it still kind of works on Twitch, but it's different. I don't know why. I think it's because it doesn't go up to the top and then sit there and then like, you know, glare at you. I don't know. It's interesting. Heavy Gear has wheels from the Gear's feet. Oh yeah. I played the first two PC games. There was Heavy Gear and Heavy Gear 2, and I really enjoyed those. Although I think I enjoyed Heavy Gear 1 more than I enjoyed Heavy Gear 2, if I remember correctly. It's too bad they don't kind of remake those, but yeah. You like skirmish games, but I don't recall you mentioning the fantasy whimsical Moonstone in the game. Did I paint some models for Moonstone, or was that for something else? I know I painted like an ogre witch, and I painted some like Three Little Pigs type guys, and I painted like a snail named Glom, and he had like a big. He was like a walking snail, and he had a big huge shell on his back, and he had all of his stuff attached to the outside, like he was like a traveler or whatever. I remember painting those, and I can't remember if those were Moonstone or some other game that starts with the word moon. But yeah, I don't know. I don't like every skirmish game. That's part of the issue too, is I think it's important. I don't just go blanket, I love all skirmish games, but I do have a tendency to focus mostly on skirmish games, but there's specific ones. I'm a stickler for rules. There's some people who are like, I'll only play a game if it's got good models. I'll only play a game if it's got good lore. You know, I'm amazed at people who play games who are like, I don't really care about the rules. I'm like, that's what you're doing though when you're playing. Like but yeah, if the rules aren't good, I generally don't like it. So, anyone know if Alex from 52 Miniatures is okay? I've not seen a new post in a while. He just commented on my video this week. So I know he's still around. I mean, I'm assuming so. He did a video because he painted the same, he painted a bunch of other stuff as well, but he painted the same vehicle from Revenant's Run. And he was like, oh, hey, I painted that thing on my channel too. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So when I saw Ahsoka coming, I put my 7-year-old son into the Clone Wars cartoon. Now he knows more about the Arrows Star Wars canon than I do. Nice. I haven't even turned on my console since June. Too many other things to do. I had not been playing video games at all much, but then, like I mentioned recently, but I was kind of taking a bit of a hobby break because I've been working on the basement. So I've been doing that. I mean, obviously I was traveling a bunch, but I've been doing it some. And then when I do have the free time, instead of painting and stuff, what I've been doing instead has been playing some Starfield. I've been enjoying Starfield. It is basically Skyrim in space or Fallout 4 in space. And I know that some people have used that in like hot take reviews, like on Reddit, and like, well, it's just Fallout 4 in space. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted, was Fallout 4 in space. I don't want Fallout 4 and Fallout 4 anymore. I want it in space. That's awesome. So yeah, I've been actually enjoying it quite a bit. I spent a bunch of time last night, stayed up too late, honestly, trying to get, like in Fallout 4, there was outpost building. I never played 76, and I know there was outpost building there too. But in Fallout 4, you could like plant crops or something, and then you could make stuff and whatever. And there was a little bit of like kind of crafting that then you could like automate to some degree, but there's even more in Starfield, which has been cool. I finally figured out how to get, like, one star system that I'm in, I can get iron, aluminum, and so I can get aluminum and beryllium on one planet, and that's where I first started my first base. And then there's another planet in the same solar system that I could get iron, but I couldn't get iron on this other planet. So I did that, and then there's these like cargo links is what they're called, which is basically like a launch pad where it's got some like little hoppers on, and you can basically make it so that stuff, you know, on this planet where there's a bunch of iron, the iron gets extracted by the iron extractors and then put into a little like mini tiny little block warehouse, and then transferred from there to this cargo link. And then an automated spaceship comes down, loads it up, and then flies it to another cargo link someplace else in the same solar system. Well, you can also do intersolar system ones now too. They are a little bit more expensive to build, and they have to be fueled by helium-3, and it's a whole thing. But like the entire first solar system I was messing around with, there was no copper. just none. So eventually I found copper and like a solar system or two over, and then figured out how to make that thing fly over here and then dump it from this link to the next link, and then that link takes it. So I was just messing around, and I don't know. It's one of those things where you don't do anything important for like 3 hours, but you're just like, well, if I do this, and then you watch a video and go, I should put this to the, it can be a time sink. So I got to also dial that back a little bit, but I am also working on the basement, which is cool. So, and I'm still painting on Twitch. So, I'm keeping my bases covered. Saw a thumbnail of a recent 52 miniatures yesterday. Subject is kill team forces he's done. Yeah, I think he was building a kill team force out of those Revenant runs. Revenants run, guys. Let's see here. I have YouTube on, not a tube. I have YouTube on all the time when I'm hobbying. Yourself, Aspect Tactics, Tabletop Tactics, Vince Frantrella, other tactics, painting stuff. I appreciate that. That's good to hear. I can't have a video on while I'm painting. I just can't do it. Because then I just stop painting. Like, I'm sitting there, I'm painting, and then I'm like, and then my brush eventually dries out because I have this weird visual focus. When I was a little kid, as soon as commercials would come on, like my mom was in, she's like trying to watch her show and I'm trying to ask her a question, and then the commercials come on, and now she starts ignoring the question to figure out what it is that I need or whatever the problem is. And then I start ignoring her because I'm just focused on the commercials. I don't know why, but it's always been an issue. So yeah, I can listen to things while I hobby. I can't watch, you know what I mean? And you'd be like, well, just listen to the video, and that's fine. But if it's there, I just can't. So I just listen to podcasts and audiobooks, and it works out fine for me. I also don't like to listen to music while I paint. I don't enjoy that. I don't know why. Like, I love listening to music in the car and other times, stuff like that. But if I'm painting, I seem to have trained myself that it's podcasts and audiobooks or it's nothing. I don't know why. It's weird. What are your thoughts on the new Trogoth the GW put up for pre-order with the antlers? I can't make my mind on him. I don't know that I've seen it. Trogoth, you say? Oh, this guy in the pre-order. I think he's a very good sculpt, but that guy's kind of cool. There's a lot going on there, I guess. I don't know. He's a pretty good sculpt, though, I think. There's something about the face that bothers me a little bit, but not terribly. Oh, look at that. Oh, Vanguard. That's kind of cool. Anyway, yeah. Oh, there's the big pig. Yeah, I don't know. I wish his face was a little different, but otherwise I think he's basically a good sculpt. He just looks a little smushed. Maybe, again, it could be just a bad angle. That happens sometimes, too, for sure. Anyway, let me fix all my windows. If I had 2 monitors, that would be a thing, but there's not the space particularly here for that kind of thing. All right, so let's see here. Wasn't sure what to do with my black powder red earth models. Then Majestic 13 came out. I'm going to paint them up as Task Force 141 for the original Modern Warfare games. Nice. There you go. People who shoot video in portrait mode should be drawn and quartered. Not if you're doing it for reasons, like TikToks and YouTube shorts and stuff like that. That makes sense then. My Ravage Star big box of minis arrives today. Pretty excited to paint some up. Nice. I am managing to catch Adam. This is so cool. I'm going to enjoy your calming voice while I paint weapons for the Signar Warjack from the Privateer Press starter box. Nice. Dirty Down, you got to attach those to like a jackhammer. I can use it. Works if I use my Vortex, or if I use my Typhoon mixer, then it works real well. But that thing is a bit monstrous. But yeah, it is stuff you really got to shake the heck out of. Stirring them also helps. I've heard that too, like getting like a something in there and stirring it around, that obviously helps to break it up a little bit quicker too. I've always wanted a larger formation of Rough Riders, but I've always been put off by the cost, and the figures themselves from GW. Any suggestions for where to get some cheaper alternatives? I mean, I'd take a look at My Mini Factory if you either have a 3D printer or have a friend with a 3D printer, or My Mini Factory is working with a company called Only Games, I believe, which is basically like if you don't have a 3D printer, don't have a friend with a 3D printer, Only Games will print it and mail it to you. Like you pay them, obviously, but it's like affiliated directly with My Mini Factory. Now, it does not work on every single My Mini Factory item, but it might work on this one. It kind of like the sculptors themselves sort of have to like put in the files, or because sometimes the files come in a zip file and there's like it's, I don't know, but yeah, it's not every piece on My Mini Factory will work for Only Games, but a lot of them will. Otherwise, take a look at Victoria miniatures too. Maybe that may be something to take a look at. A friend of mine printed me some gritty tactical Scooby Gang minis. Tempted to use them as a Majestic 13 team. That'd be kind of fun. The aliens would have gotten away with it if it hadn't been for those meddling kids. Also true. Very true. I think they are never going to show that money is gone. I mean, it could be. Could be. Elmer's School Glue is a non-fogging glue. Scale modelers have been using that type of stuff for decades. I wouldn't think that Elmer's School Glue, though, would work sticking plastic to plastic. That's the stuff you peel off your fingers when you're a kid, right? Like, I wouldn't think that PVA would work super hot on plastic, but I don't know. I haven't tried it. Broken Anvil basically Ponzi'd themselves out of existence. It kind of sounds a little bit like it, yeah. Kickstarters that don't deliver is just fraud. Legally, no. When you sign up for a Kickstarter and say, yep, I'm going to do this, there is a box you have to check that says, I understand I might not get this stuff. Like it's a part of Kickstarter's like built-in thing. They're like, look, doesn't always work. You know what I mean? So if you say, okay, cool, well, then you, unfortunately, like you're morally, you're not wrong. You see what I'm saying? But yeah. I always get Broken Anvil and Anvil Industries confused. Anvil Industries does great stuff, and I don't think they do Kickstarters, and they just make things that are awesome. And they're in the UK, whereas Broken Anvil is in, I think, Washington State. I generally only watch content creators that aren't pushing various products and they have frankly low production values. It looks and feels like a television show. I'm out. I am astounded sometimes by, I'll see a channel and I'm like, wow, this has got really good production. And then I will look at it, and not within wargaming, mostly within video making, honestly. I follow a lot of different filmmakers and videographers and photographers and stuff like that. And I'll see these channels and I'll be like, wow, this is nice work. And then you'll be like, this person has less than 3,000 subscribers. Like, and they've been doing this for a while. It's like astounding. Like, when your focus area is video production and stuff like that, and you make videos about it, you can make them seem like you're a lot fancier than you actually are, because that is the thing that you're trying to teach people. You know what I mean? Whereas when you are a miniature painter or whatever, or something, you know, then you could blow people away with a good miniature, but you maybe don't understand the whole concept behind photography and videography and lighting and sound and all that jazz. I straddle to some degree in that my video production, you know, obviously it's taken me a decade, but it's gotten better. But at the time when I first started, it was still better than most people, because most people weren't using external microphones. They were just using the microphone that was built into the camera. So, you know, everything sounded like crap. My stuff, when you listen to it now, sounds like crap. But at the time, in comparison, it didn't sound as much like crap. And now, you know, it's generally, I hope, sounds better, minus the motorcycle noises all the time. That all being said, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes when the channel is like super kind of fancy high end, I don't find myself watching it as much. I'm not gonna lie. There's that too. Although, you know, to be fair, like, again, look at 52 Miniatures. Like, his stuff always looks amazing, because I believe his day job is working in videography, filmmaking, that kind of stuff. Like, I've been a photographer since the 80s, so I've got that background, but I was also interested in painting and all that kind of stuff. But I think that when you are a, you know, super high level painter, like Sam, Vince, whatever, you're not necessarily it's hard to do that to such a high level and to do video to such a high level at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't seem to happen a ton. So something I always felt off about Broken Anvil Miniatures, especially the video when Trapped Under Plastic went to visit them. I was interested in all three of their products, but thankfully I listened to my gut and passed on all three. I didn't see that video when they went to go hang out with them. I liked the sculpts. Well, specifically the undead. I really loved the undead sculpts. So I was like, And I talked to them at Gen Con, not this year, but last year, and found out that they weren't just like out of nowhere, ta-da, we made a game company. Like, where they originally came from was working for other companies to make like statues and maquettes, and like, you know, you're a video game company and you've got this super fancy version of your video game, and if you pay the $300 version instead of the $60 version, you get like a cool painted, like, you know, character from the game, and it's like, you know, one of those like super collector's edition things like that. So that was the type of stuff that they were doing as a business, and then they wanted to get into sculpting and doing all kinds of stuff for gaming, and they wanted to move into that sector, and I don't know what happened, but it's that's where they started. So it wasn't just like, we're not a game company, we're a game company. They're like, we've been doing this business for X amount of time and we have this skill set, and we're trying to parlay it now into tabletop wargaming. But I think they might have gone too big too quick. I'm a big fan of start small and grow slowly, but I know that they had a big hiring jump, and then we're like, Rivenstone, we're doing it, it's a big thing, boom, big splash. And like, I honestly, like, I pulled the trigger on that as a supporter of the Kickstarter. Literally there were like 3 hours left on it, and I was like, I had been hemming and hawing, both hemming and hawing for quite some time, and then finally I was like, all right, fine. Because the thing is, I knew if I just bought the skeleton guys that I wanted, no one else around here was going to buy it probably, and so I wouldn't have anybody to play with. So I'm like, okay, I need to buy 2 forces, and that was the problem, is I was like trying to decide what the second force was, and I finally like looked at the like the dwarves, and they were painted very well, the ones they were showing off, but it was an aesthetic that I was not into. And as I looked at them, I'm like, if I make them real grungy, like they're underground, which is generally where mining and stuff like that happens when you're a dwarf, then I think that would be a lot, because they were painted super clean and a lot of metallics and pastels and bright colors and stuff like that. And I was like, but I was like looking at them later, and then just before the end of the thing, the end of the you know, the crowdfund, and I was like, if I paint them real grungy, I think they'll work out real well. So that's why I decided to use them as my second set and pull the trigger. Whether, again, I'll ever get my money or my stuff, we'll see. I like your channel as it's your channel and you talk to the hobby forum in all points. Well, I appreciate that. Established titles ads are, yeah, no, there's like, that's a thing that if someone came to me, even before knowing what we all know now about it or whatever, but even like, I would have been like, no, dog, no, thank you. Like, I could see potentially doing maybe an ad for Squarespace eventually, but I use like their website on 2 of my websites. So but the thing is that, like, sure, I use it, that's great, but does it have an actual use to viewers that much? Not necessarily. There are, I'm sure, some of you out there who are using Squarespace or whatever. This is not an ad, again, by the way. But I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. Like, when I see photographers use it as a sponsor in their things, they're frequently talking to other photographers who are probably building a portfolio site or something like that, and then it kind of makes a little bit more sense. But I don't, I mean, sure, you might be a commission painter and you want to use a website to have like a bunch of your stuff and blah, blah, blah. It would probably work out well for that kind of thing. But that's one of the reasons I've kind of held off on it, even though, like I said, it is a service that I use and enjoy myself. Again, I did not get paid to say any of that. PITA pricing is a thing. I don't want to do X, but if you pay me enough, sure, I can do. Yeah. Oh yeah. I get a text about once a week from some rando out of nowhere, some sort of automated text that says like, hey, and they know my first name, and they're like, hey, do you own the house at such and such, my address? If you do, we're interested in buying it, one of those things. So I have responded to a couple of them, and one of them I was like, sure, no, I would be interested. $2.9 million. This house is not worth $2.9 million, not even close, not even, but I don't want to move so much that's how much it would cost. Like that's, yeah, it would, because first of all, right now, like where would I live then? Like there's not a lot of houses for sales, it turns out, too much. And so, yeah. Anyway, people are the worst. Some people are the worst. Raid Shadow Legends. Oh yeah. 18 is already ancient for a cat. Congratulations. He's old and he has intestinal cancer. He was diagnosed with that in 2020, summer of 2020. And so the doctor at the time was like, you'll probably have another 2 to 3 years. So we're technically into fall of 2023. So we're counting that as a win. It is 100% due to my wife. She is the one who can give pills to cats. I can't. I've tried. It doesn't work. So yeah, he gets a steroid pill every day. He gets a B12 shot every Monday, and he gets chemo every other Saturday. And it seems to be working because he's doing fine. Like we knew he was sick when he was throwing up a lot. Not just like cat throw up where you're like, oh, I ate too fast, or oh, I've got a hairball, but like square footage, like a lot. It was bad. He did it once on me on the couch, like at 1 o'clock in the morning. That was not great. That sucked a lot. But yeah, he hasn't done that. He again, eats too fast because he's a cat sometimes, or he coughs up a hairball sometimes because he's got long hair. But otherwise, he's been way better. So the drugs is working, which is great. Is there a way to revive a pot of paint? If they dry out, are they dead? Are we talking dry with like cracks in it? Because then, yeah, if it's dried and there's cracks in the paint, it's done. If it's like gummy and it's kind of, and you wouldn't want to paint with it, but it's still, you could move it around. It seems like there's still slightly a bit of fluid. You can generally put in a bit of thinner. The trick is you want to put in small amounts. You put in too much, you will potentially revive it, but it will be so thin that it's now a wash. So you have to kind of watch that. But if you like open up a pot of paint and it is hard, done. That is no great. Personally, if I put as much effort into building my audience as what a lot of them have, I would be very concerned with making sure I didn't put that in danger. Oh, for sure. Rented an entire theater to take my partner to see Barbie. It's not that expensive as I thought, and it's really nice having no one else in the theater. Sure. The recent sponsoring of sci-fi cars. Your next game is Car Wars Reloaded. Well, that's not a car. It's more like a hover tank because it definitely had like little hovery things in the bottom. It's not a car. Car Wars Reloaded 2.0 Next Generation. I mean, they just made the new Car Wars. They made Car Wars 6th edition. I backed that Kickstarter and all that stuff showed up. There you go. You paint too much when you can't remember what you painted. Well, I mean, too much is maybe a strong word, Speaking of skirmish games, I miss old Confrontation. Oh, yeah, I know a lot of painters. I think Sam's still got a bunch of those like old metal Confrontation models from Rackham, like still in a box someplace. He kind of covets them to some degree. Yeah, a lot of painters really loved those models. Core Space is my go-to skirmish. Interesting. Is Diesel a Maine Coon? He's like half Maine Coon. So yeah, he's not in his heyday, he was not as monstrous as because Maine Coons can get 25 pounds. Like they can be big cats and like tall or long or however you want to necessarily, but he's, his biggest ever, he was maybe 17 pounds. Nowadays he's about 9 or 10 because he's getting old and skinny. But yeah, he was never full. Yeah, he's not a full blown Maine Coon, but he's definitely half Maine Coon. I collected and built a South Force for Heavy Gear Blitz of 30 plus models, wicked models that came with a tiny decal sheet, challenging. Most gears required 6 or 7 pins. Yeah, that's the thing, is that I don't. Yeah, because those were all metal models, weren't they? Yeah, no, that's like I'm starting to work on, or I will be starting to work on once I, probably in October, I will be starting to work on. I've been doing army building. I haven't actually started putting any models together yet, but I was doing army building while I had not much going on when I was in, in the evenings in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Lovely little downtown. Well, not little. I mean, it's 250,000 people, but it's a really nice downtown. I went into an alley at one point that was so clean, I think that somebody must have vacuumed. It was weird. Because I was like doing some like street photography stuff and there was like a mural and I was like, oh, I'll go down there. And I'm walking into this house and I'm like, I've never been in an alley that clean. Like literally, at least someone swept, but they might have vacuumed. It was crazy. Anyway, so I was working on building some army lists for Steel Rift. But I haven't started building yet. But I am much more looking forward to building resin 3D printed models, because they're very modular, put different arms on them, all that kind of stuff, versus building metal modular armor like that too. Yeah, that's for sure. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to painting those. And I did actually at Nova, one of the things I did buy because it was flat was I bought some decal sheets from Death Ray Designs, who make Steel Rift, of like chevrons and little tiny numbers and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to that a bunch. Have you seen the Twisted Metal TV series? Would be awesome if someone did a skinned version of Gaslands based on the IP. I saw a trailer for it and I want to watch it, but it's like on a service I don't get, and I don't see myself getting it just to watch that. So that's kind of a bummer. I don't know. It's on, is it Peacock or Paramount Plus? It's on one of those. And I'm like, eh. And even if there's like a free version, but they're like, well, there's a free version of it with ads, I literally won't watch it. I'm not, at this point in my life, I'm not doing that. I would suggest Baldur's Gate 3 as a console PC game. Yeah, I see myself playing Baldur's Gate 3 later in this year, or maybe beginning of next year. Like that, like I was like, I'm really enjoying Starfield and I want to play Baldur's Gate, but I know that it's going to be something I'm going to play later on. I can't do them both at the same time. Just not enough time in the day. Gaslands group won't be playing until October after the annual fishing trip in Derby and harvest time, going through some sort of withdrawal. Well, I can understand that, yeah. I forget if it was Lila Mev or Dana Howell. They had the opposite experience with the speed paint metallics. Ever feel like you bought a different product from another person? Yeah, I don't know. I think that sometimes people just have different... Guy was just walking by, just lifted his shirt up. I guess he was hot. I think that sometimes people have just different expectations from something, or they have different... I don't know. Yeah, I like I said, if you go back, I used the silver in Friday's Twitch stream, and then Monday's Twitch stream, I used the gold stuff. So Sunday. So 2 days ago, Twitch stream, I was painting the silver stuff on the flag, and I painted the gold stuff on Monday. And that was the first time I'd used the gold stuff on something that wasn't basically a warlord army man. And I was like, it worked really well on the flag, and I liked it quite a bit. I don't know that it's necessarily for everybody. It's not for every situation, but for what I was doing, I thought it worked out really nice, and I liked it. I like the fact, because the thing that I hate about most metallics is that most of them are gummy, because they're so thick, because they got stuff in them. A lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are gummy. One of the reasons I've been a big fan of the Vallejo Model Metallic Air Silver for so long is because it is so fluid. It's not gummy like GW, metallics. It's a lot more fluid because it has to get shot through an airbrush. That's the whole idea. But you can also put it on with a normal brush and it works out real well. I wonder what would happen if you shot that speed paint metallic through an airbrush. I'll have to try that at some point. That's kind of an interesting concept. Oh, Jesus, it's 11. Well, I'm just yammering on here. My goodness. Starfield sounds like satisfactory. It has a section of it that can be, but you don't have to do any of that stuff. You never have to build a base. You could just fly around and do all kinds of things and whatever. But I was trying to get into mining, and I thought it was kind of fun. And it's got a bit of a Satisfactory vibe. Satisfactory being a game that's about making factories. Anyway, if you don't know what Satisfactory is, which obviously Scott does, but you're not wrong. Yeah. All right, folks, it's 11, and so I'm a go. I have to go have lunch with my in-laws who I haven't seen in 3 weeks, so that'll be nice. Yeah, I appreciate everybody coming by. Again, it's been a while, and I'm sure that this one was not necessarily as interesting because it didn't have a specific subject, but I just wanted to chat and let people know about where I've been, what's been going on. Had a great time at Nova. Had a good time at the trade show. Trade shows are not necessarily great times usually, but it was still a fun time. It was nice to hang out with Oliver, and like I said, Fort Wayne downtown, specifically very clean. So yeah. So you folks have a good rest of your day, whether it's Sunday or Monday. And also, I'll be back on Monday night on Twitch. So if you're interested, come by and watch me. I'm going to start painting something new probably because the Imperial Guard command squad is done. They're done. So I'm going to be probably either painting the the little armored Sentinel Walker guy, or I'll be painting the little howitzer and a little rocket pod thing, because I want to get that combat patrol done before Dragonfall is the plan. So there you go. So again, thanks for coming by and hanging out. I appreciate it. Hope you have a good weekend or good beginning to your week, depending. And